So this is a follow-up video to a question someone had asked, and I think it's a really good question. Have you built FreeNAS systems using consumer hardware before? And I'm like, yes. And have you followed up on those? It'd be interesting to see what happens. Well, I said, why not? We built ours, and we built it a few years ago. So it's pretty relevant, pretty valid, and we use it a lot. We know exactly how much it's used. So this machine was built with I believe with a gigabyte motherboard. I didn't feel like sliding it out of the server rack to do it. The only thing server about it, I guess it's in the server rack, but it is a off-the-shelf motherboard, an AMD A6 processor, and we used for the beginning of this array, it has a HGST Ultrastar 7K 3000 in it. Now these are the 2 terabyte 64 meg cache drives. They've worked really well. Haven't had any issues with them. They've held up. I think we got them. I mean, they've dropped some in price, like $64 now, and I think I paid probably, I know they were under 100. As at the time we bought these a couple years ago, that was about the going rate for them. Anyways, drives have held up fine. No failures. Now we did have, like, when they shipped us one, we had one bad, but as far as once we've installed them in the system, no failures, no issues, been working. Now the system does have 12 gigs of RAM in it and is running some, let's see, right now, over time it's been different things it's been running, but right now the only thing it runs is our clone deploy. We used to have some other things in the jails that we're just not using anymore. We'll move them to their own servers. So this is the RAID array we're talking about. This is the old one. We added a second mirrored set just to duplicate actually pretty much my videos. That's what the Jupiter system does, is all the video I create, I wanted it not saved on my computer. There's a lot of it, well, just about a terabyte of video that I have on there. So as I create videos, it automatically backs them up. That's a lot newer, but right now there's currently, and because we constantly are purging it, about 1.8 terabytes on our creatively named 4 drives RAID, because, well, it's a RAID Z2 with 4 drives RAID. Anyways, the follow-up is, how are these hard drives held up? How is the system held up? One, system's never crashed, never had a lockup. No, I never recall a problem. We do have a UPS, but through a series of happenstance and whatnot, we have had power failures. We have had, when we were trying to do something, I unplugged it, so it just was powered off randomly. I do not have it set up properly for the UPS. It's just one of those on my to-do list and didn't do it. And so when the UPS goes into a shutdown mode, which we have a very beefy UPS that lasts for, I think, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before there's a problem, which is also part of the reason, unless there's a really long power failure, it generally comes back on before then, so I haven't set it up to power down. But it also hasn't been an issue. Any of the times the power's off has not been some catastrophic failure or recovery for any of the drives because, well, ZFS is rock solid. I really have a lot of faith in it. Now, how we use this. Customers bring in computers, they need hard drives replaced, and nobody backs up anything. That's always our theory for all things. So this drive has tons of data being dumped to it from backups of randomness, whatever people have, and then we replace their hard drives and copy it all back. When Windows crashes or whatever, it's just a common, before we reload it, we dump it, we boot up off Ubuntu, copy everything in their user folder over, unless they have a special request for other files. Nobody knows where they keep their files. That's always a guessing game with the retail market. But what this does is really taxes it with a lot of little files. And so you see we're on the right drive here, Hitachi Ultrastar 73K. So we'll clear that, and we'll filter down to what we want to see. And we'll look for errors. And as you can see, no errors. So you're talking about just gobs of data. And we have filled the drive up to capacity, and then we have a script we run to purge out stuff after it sits for so long. And after we copy it back to the client, we only keep it for so many days after we pick up the computer, and then we just purge it out of the system. So there's tons of read-write going on and terabytes moving back and forth at any given time due to the volume. I guess we're a fairly busy retail store. We place, a few hundred hard drives at least a year, if not more, and plus all the reloads we have to do when Windows gets completely broken, and we just, back up all their data over here. So lots of little files, terabytes of data. And we've had to back up movie collections for people and do data recoveries and all that stuff. So this drive does really get used, and it's running our clone deploy system, so that gets run all the time on here. So you can see no errors on the drive, and let's look at I think it's the hours we want to see. So 20,039 hours. Let's see, let's calculate that in today's. 834 days divided by 365 again. So 2.28 years of runtime on this drive, which sounds about right. We built it a couple years ago and have not had any issues. So, I mean, it's kind of a short video I'm doing here. It's just a follow-up, but all the drives, no issues, no problems. The only thing I did notice about these is, I think the temp on them, they've hit a little bit, they run a little hotter. Like the Western Digital Reds that I did in another video never get above about 35, 36, I think, when, you know, under full load. These get a little bit warmer. You can see the max it's hit. I believe this is the max it's hit is 46, but they generally seem to run a little bit hotter. We have extra fans in our FreeNAS box, but it really hasn't been a major concern because there's, like I said, 2.5 years of runtime, and we can do a cycle count here. So they've only been turned on and off 36 times. Yeah, we don't really turn this thing off very often, other than when we added some things, and that's really about it. When there's been power failures, that happens over a couple of years of time and storms and things like that. We had one that lasted 2 days of there was just no electricity after a big storm. So it's, like I said, a quick follow-up on it, not an in-depth video, but to show that this system, and we've got other ones out there, but this one's readily available in my server rack. We haven't had any problems with it. And over time, I mean, we used to run OwnCloud on this. We've run a lot of things. We're still running, I haven't switched over. I mean, this is still the FreeNAS 9.1 series. After the FreeNAS 10.1 and the kind of the debacle there, I'm a little hesitant on FreeNAS 9.1, but I'm gonna do some videos on the new FreeNAS because it does look pretty slick, and I like the way that they've integrated Beehive into it, and I'll see how that really plays out and how it works. But in terms of building it on consumer hardware and a look at it 2.5 years or 2.23 years later, I'm not having any issues with it. It's working fine. I know this is a one machine. We do have more of them out there that we haven't had problems with. And so I can't base my statistics on just one sample set or even a small sample set. But I just want to show that, yes, this is a follow-up on a machine running on consumer hardware that has never crashed, never had an error, never been taken back apart. The hard still has the same RAM from the day we put it in with 12 gigs of RAM, kind of what we had, and a new motherboard and an AMD A6. So thanks for watching. If you have other questions about this or want to do another follow-up video on something similar or related to this, like and subscribe for the content here, and I'll do some more videos. Thanks.